Welcome all to a new section on class Reptilia, the type species Calotes. And here we will be discussing on the pineal eye and the sense organs. Now, pineal eye, it is found in reptiles. It is a unique feature of reptiles, especially in reptiles like Lacerta, Calotes, Varanus, etc. And in Sphenodon also, when we mentioned the Rhynchocephalidae and the characters of Sphenodon, we saw that they also do have the pineal eye. This pineal eye, it is present on the roof of the diencephalon. It is in the roof of the diencephalon. It is produced into a hollow median outgrowth. Here you can see this part. It is the midbrain region. Okay, here you can see midbrain region. And the roof of the diencephalon, it is produced into a hollow median outgrowth in front of the epiphysis or the pineal organ. And the parietal organ of the pineal eye, here you can see it is marked here. Okay, parietal organ or the pineal eye, it is situated in the parietal foramen of the cranial roof or in the skull, and it is just under the integument, covered in the young by a transparent scale. The distal end of this becomes constricted off as a hollow sphere, and that is what you can see here. And the remainder is converted into a nerve. The wall of the hollow sphere becomes divergently modified on opposite sides, and the distal side gives rise to a lens-like thickening. The proximal side, on the other hand, forms a membrane several layers in thickness, the retina, and the whole is enclosed in the complete structure is enclosed in a capsule of connective tissue, and the nerve usually degenerates before the animal reaches maturity. So this is with regard to the pineal eye, and it is a unique feature of certain reptilia, and it is considered to be a primitive character. Okay. Now, regarding the function of the pineal eye, the function, it is still obscure. It's not so clearly known. And the skin over the top of the pineal eye in some reptiles becomes depigmented and takes the shape of cornea. The parietal organ is, though eye-like in appearance, but it has no trace of any visual function. So it cannot be considered as a sense organ. Okay. Now, regarding the sense organs, the first one being the eyes exhibit advancement over those of the amphibians due to the transition from water to land. And although both the eyelids are movable, but the lower eyelid is more movable in comparison to the upper eyelid. The eyelids close the eyes to protect from the dust, heat, and rain, etc. And there is a third eyelid, that is a nictitating membrane in the anterior corner of the eye, which develops and lies folded beneath the lower eyelid. It is really a double fold of conjunctiva and is not homologous with that of the frog. The nictitating membrane can be drawn rapidly over the moist cornea, and thus it protects and cleans the eye. There are glands which keep the eyelids and cornea moist and clean. The Harderian gland, lying on the anterior side of the eyeball, lubricates the nictitating membrane, while the lacrimal gland, lying on the posterior side of the eyelid, keeps the eye moist and clean. So these are the two glands, the Harderian gland and the lacrimal gland, which secrete, the secretions of which actually protects the eyes and cleans the eye. The tears, that is the water fluid, are passed from the eye into the nose through the lacrimal duct. Okay. The eye consists of usually three layers: the outer fibrous tunic or the sclerotic layer, the middle choroid layer, and the innermost retinal layer. And here you can see three layers: the sclera, the choroid, and the retina. Now, when we speak about the sclerotic layer, it is thick and tough fibrous layer that protects the eyeball and maintains the shape of the eyeball. So here you can see the sclerotic layer, it is continuous all throughout the eyeball. And the sclerotic layer is distinguished into two distinct regions, that is anterior transparent exposed portion, the cornea, and a posterior large opaque cartilaginous portion, the sclerotic, lying hidden inside the orbit. The small anterior portion of the sclerotic, the cornea, is visible and commonly called the white of the eye. And the cornea, it is supported by a ring of 11 small sclerotic bones or ossicles. Here you can see the sclerotic ossicles on the sides. So there are 11 sclerotic ossicles that supports the cornea, and it is present around the iris. The cornea, it is curved and provides the main refracting surface. A thin transparent epithelial layer is fused to the outer surface of the cornea, and it is referred as the conjunctiva, and it is continued over the inner surface of the eyelids, and that is regarding the sclerotic layer. Now the choroid layer, the middle layer, it is otherwise known as the uvea. It is differentiated into three regions. A greater part of it is thin, vascular, pigmented, and it lies in close contact with the sclera or the sclerotic layer, and it is called the choroid. The uvea, the part of the uvea which is in close contact with the sclera, and it is highly vascular and pigmented. That part is known as the choroid, and it serves to darken the eye. At the junction of the sclerotic with the cornea, here you can see, the uvea forms a thick ring which constitutes a part of the ciliary body. This is the part we are referring to, okay, the ciliary body. Then the third part, it is just in front of the cavity of the eye, forming a part of the circular portion. It is the iris, okay, this portion. So it is the whole iris plus the ciliary body plus the choroid layer together forms the uvea. Okay, the iris, it is perforated at the center by an aperture, and this aperture is referred as the pupil. The iris possesses circular and radial muscles to reduce and enlarge the pupil respectively, and the iris contains pigmented cells which impart it the characteristic light orange color. Now the innermost layer, it is the retinal layer. Retina lies inside the entire uvea and is differentiated into three regions. Its portion lying in contact with the choroid, it is thick and sensitive. It is known as called the optical part of the retina. It contains more cones than rods. Thus, there is a good daylight vision and probably good color perception. This condition is often found in most lizards, which are diurnal type, that is diurnally active type, and many turtles. The double cones of turtles and lizards may serve to detect polarized light, and this portion is protected from excessive exposure to light by yellow droplets found over this portion. Remaining retina is thin and non-sensory. It lines the iris and the ciliary body. The part forming the ciliary body is known as the ciliary part, and that to the iris, it is known as the iridial part. Okay. The junction of the optical and the ciliary parts of the retina, it is irregular, and it is known as ora serrata. The lens here, it is biconvex, transparent, lying immediately behind the iris, and it is more convex behind than in front, and a ring of soft tissue, the annular pad, surrounds the circumference of the lens. The lens is suspended and held in position by radially arranged fibers which arise from the ciliary body and are attached to the annular pad and forms the suspensory ligaments. These suspensory ligaments, it keeps these in position. The suspensory ligament is formed of ciliary muscles as well as ciliary processes. The lens and the ciliary ligament divide the cavity of the eye into two unequal, subequal or unequal compartments. The anterior one is referred as the aqueous chamber. It is smaller, and this is the vitreous chamber. The aqueous chamber is filled with aqueous humor, and this one with the vitreous humor. The aqueous chamber is further divided by iris into anterior and posterior parts containing a clear watery fluid, which we already referred as the aqueous humor. It is continuous through the pupil. The aqueous humor keeps the eyeball stretched for distinct vision. The optic nerve arises from the inner surface of the retina joins the brain after piercing through all the three eye codes at the back of the eyeball. The point of origin of optic nerve is referred as a blind spot. This is optic nerve, and this is referred as a blind spot, and no image is formed at this particular point. A small part of the retina opposite to the center of the lens uh, is the place of the most distinct vision, and it is referred as the yellow spot or area centralis or the fovea centralis. A peculiar pigmented blackish brown, highly vascular, cushion-like rod. It is referred as a conus papillaris or the ectodermal conus. It projects into the vitreous humor from the blind spot, and maybe it provides nutrition, just like the pecten of birds. Okay, so it is the conus papillaris or the ectodermal conus. Accommodation for near vision is usually produced by the ciliary muscles, so arranged that they cause the ciliary process to squeeze the lens, so it like thickens out and making its anterior surface more rounded. So that is how the accommodation is made possible. So the lens can be accommodated to bring about like vision of nearby as well as far away objects with the help of the ciliary muscles. Okay, so that is about the eye. Now the next sense organ we need to speak about is the Jacobson's organ. Okay, Jacobson's organ, it is innervated by branches of the olfactory and the trigeminal nerves. So it is related with the olfaction, that is smelling. This sense organ, it is important in most lizards and snakes, and like senses scent particles introduced into it by the tongue tips. So the tongue is flipped out, and the scent particles are being taken into the tongue, or it gets adhered to the tongue, and the tongue with the scent particles, it is taken inside the mouth, and then it is inserted into the Jacobson's organ. So that is how it gets the stimulus. Okay, these organs serve to smell the food when it has been taken into the buccal cavity. In some reptiles, they play a part in activities such as trailing prey, that is chasing the prey, locating members of the opposite sex. Paired ducks communicate with the buccal cavity and probably enabling the olfactory appreciation of substances held in the mouth. So this is actually the Jacobson's organ, and you can see this is the internal nostril, the external nostril, lining of the nose, etc. And what happens is the tongue is flipped out, and it collects the scent particles. Then it is taken inside the buccal cavity, and the tip of the tongue is inserted into the Jacobson's organ. During this, what happens is the scent particles, it is inserted into the Jacobson's organ, and it gets sensitized with the stimulus. So that is how the particular organ works. Okay. Now the next one we have is the ear. Sorry, you can see here so regarding the ear, as we have already seen when we study the morphology, the external ear, it is absent, and the ear is represented only by the middle ear and the internal ear. The middle ear, it comprises an air-filled cavity, the tympanic cavity, and it is bounded externally by the tympanum and internally by the auditory capsule. So tympanic cavity, on either side it is closed. One is on the outer side, it is by tympanum, and by the auditory capsule inside. The tympanum lies behind the jaws, sunk a little below the surface, and from the lower part of the tympanic cavity arises the eustachian tube, extends downwards and inwards to open into the posterior part of the pharynx. A slender rod-like ear ossicle, the columella oris, stretches across the tympanic cavity. The columella oris is divided into two parts, that is the stapes and fitting into the small membrane covered aperture, the fenestra ovalis, and then the extra stapes. So stapes and the extra stapes together form the columella oris. Okay, now this is the structure of the internal ear given here, and it is you can see here, this is the part. It is composed of the utriculus and sacculus together from the vestibule, and the three semicircular canals. We have the two vertical and another horizontal, and the sensory structures, the maculae on these.